I'm Shani Curry, and you are tuned into Money Therapy. You know that we believe that anything that you take care of will become more beautiful, and that includes your money. So, all month long, we have been talking to moms and we have been engaging them into money conversations, whether they're having the conversations with themselves, whether they're having it with other mothers, whether they're having it with their children. We would like to give you some tools that you can use. And today, I have something really great to share with you that's coming right out of my tube box. It is going to be Stan Leconte. He is a certified financial planner here in Miami, Florida, with us. And we're going to talk some money specifically for moms.
Absolutely.
For moms. Okay. So as you have been in your industry for over a decade for sure, what are you kind of finding uh with moms as relates to money? Where are you kind of finding them stuck?
Yeah. So with moms, single mothers, I find that they don't really take the opportunity to learn finances from the very beginning. So the example I like to use is, in a two-parent household, you have a male figure who feels like he is the one that's supposed to do the finances. He provides security, and that's fine. That's an opportunity, for the woman to do other things and flourish in other areas.
Hmm.
And all too often, they never take into account what their finances are, where their accounts are, what are the positions that they have,
Hmm.
nor how to maneuver in that space. And it's deferred, which is okay, for the time being because it gives stability. Unfortunately, what we find is if there is a separation in that union
Hmm.
and the male goes away for whatever reason, divorce, death, separation,
Hmm.
uh, the moms are left there to take care of that responsibility that they never wanted in the first place.
Gotcha.
And it's new territory. So
Mm.
you have an adult who has children or, moving around in, our society with no financial literacy education or know how to take care of their own situation.
Mm.
So
Mhm.
we find that they make all these heuristic, uh, you know, mistakes
Mm.
back and forth
Mhm.
until someone would say, like yourself, "Hey, have you talked to a CPA?
Mhm.
Do you have a financial advisor? Are you
Mhm.
going through your financial plan?"
Mhm.
Uh, and most of the time, that's not the case.
Okay.
Right?
Got it. So I definitely, as one of my friends, I always appreciate the amount of information that you have, just statistically. I just think you have a wealth of statistics that you carry along. And just now you shared a little bit about mothers that are, within a space of allowing their counterpart to manage most of the finances. You spoke about some of the challenges that you may see them to come. But there's another stat that you share with me about women just being largely more educated, just with the progression, more educated, just having access to different
Sure.
type of careers and income levels. So in with that data, as we consider that data, what are we also seeing with the implementation of financial literacy? What are you kind of seeing in the shift in that space? Because there's more education and there's more resources. So that dynamic as it relates to, the male largely having carrying that responsibility, it is a stat that is among us, but
Sure.
it is not as aggressive that it used to be. So what are we now finding in that space, currently?
Yeah, currently. So, unfortunately, the women are leading the way for us men. I'm going to talk for my counterparts, right? So,
Hmm.
but the women are doing a fantastic job. They're leading the way. They're, leading us in education.
Hmm.
They are, outpacing us as far as wages are concerned
Hmm.
in some areas.
Hmm.
And that trend continues to get higher and higher because
Hmm.
less of us black men are going to college, right?
Hmm.
We're foregoing that college education.
Hmm.
And because of that, we are seeing more women's groups form, more investment women groups are forming,
Hmm.
and they are seeking the knowledge to get better informed in how to take care of those finances. If they are making six figures, right?
Mhm.
So, you know, I would say they are seeking financial advice from the right individuals.
Mhm.
They're making the right decisions, and they're trying to keep the generational wealth going by implementing life insurance and putting the trust together, and
Mhm.
reviewing their financial plan.
Mhm.
And I see that to the forefront. I'm doing seminars in front of more women's groups than I am to mixed groups, right? So
Mhm.
they're seeking the knowledge and wanting to be in front of a CFP and getting that type of one-on-one to
Mhm.
to help them navigate that space.
Okay. So there's the space of kind of like the traditional space where largely the men are making lots of the financial decisions, and then you kind of having the woman having kind of like a hands-off kind of approach, and then sometimes at the space, whether she's being divorced, there's a separation, or she becomes a widow, she's kind of finding herself in the space of how do I continue to maintain all of this. But as I look into that particular conversation, just when I'm working just with my clients, and I know we use the word financial literacy, but in those particular spaces, I I what we would consider literacy, I think it may be more than just literacy that I find people may be lacking, because just the base level of how to pay bills, that's very simple. You have your debit card and you have your
Sure,
credit card, and then you pay the bill.
sure.
Then the literacy of like being able to look at your credit score, some there may take a different level of literacy. I think the space that maybe some women may find themselves in is there's not as much money as they thought that it was, or thought that it should be. So if they kind of have like this laissez-faire approach, then you may find that what I thought was there is not actually there. Sometimes there's misuse of the resources. So and then even if not, there is no actual separation, by you having that type of hands off, you're not able to push the finances into a different direction. So I know we talk a lot about just literacy, but I think the challenge is more that I'm seeing is maybe just like tools as it relates to investment tools and income protection tools.
Right. So, literacy is that word that we've been throwing around.
Umbrella.
Yeah, it's the
Mhm.
umbrella. But for the most part, I can sit in front of someone that doesn't know what a 401k is
Okay.
or how to utilize that tool.
Yeah.
And you have to educate them or go back,
Mhm.
and it goes for men and women as well,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So, I have some four people that graduated with a 4-year degree that here's a true story.
Mhm.
Okay. We have a professional athlete that received a $1 million check
Mhm.
and graduated with a 4-year degree and did not know what to do with that $1 million check.
Mhm.
Did not know how to develop a relationship with the bank, did not know to deposit the bank, and he just left it underneath his pillow for
Wow.
quite some time.
So he lacked the literacy. He had a 4-year degree. You don't know what he had the degree in at this time,
No,
but he did not have the comfortability of going into the bank and depositing it within the bank.
correct.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
That's just very interesting.
So when we say literacy, yeah, it starts with the literacy. You have to walk it back. You have to make sure that they understand what's going on.
Mhm.
What's a 401k?
Mhm.
What's a employee stock option plan? What's the difference between a Roth IRA and an IRA?
Mhm.
Those are very basic things that you should kind of understand.
Mhm.
But not everyone's there, and
Yeah.
that's okay.
Yeah. Now, I would categorize that under a space of literacy. I would say that that would be like a space, and sometimes even for myself that has been in this space for the last 15 years, those are still complex thoughts. Understanding, it may be very simple to understand, number one, that I'm being matched. Okay, great. I understand it's a 3% match, a
Right.
5% match, a 8% match. Okay. Do you understand that? But what I do find people may have challenges with is being able to understand how much actual money am I going to get when I'm getting ready to retire?
Sure.
How much is this money going to be taxed, right? So sometimes even for people that are professionally in the space, if they don't create the space. So it's just not like literacy, like you're kind of dumb. It's just that you
No,
really have to prioritize
sure,
having these very intense conversations, and you may need to have them on multiple times because, again, because you don't do it every day, somebody explained to you one time, you still may not
sure.
understand what they mean.
Sure, sure. It's just repetition. A lot of always repetition is
Okay.
good, right? Memory is
Mhm.
good for repetition.
Mhm.
But if you're speaking about not knowing how to plan for your retirement, that's a complex, very
I would
complex
say so.
area to navigate by yourself.
Mhm.
And you may have the time, and most people don't have the time to manage
Mhm.
a career, manage a household, manage children, their own personal space, and then on top of that, have to manage their finances as well. So it's
Mhm.
always good to delegate that to the professional to kind of get to that point where they can give you a roadmap. Say, hey, you make X amount of dollars today, and if you save $1,000 a month at this rate of return, in 30 years, this is what it may look like. If you match up to 3% of your 401k and they give you a 3% match, this is what your 401k will look like. And
Mhm.
cumulatively, if you continue working on your goals year over year, this is what your retirement is going to be in age 65, right?
Mhm.
So those are things that are basic in nature, but,
Mhm.
very hard to navigate
Yeah.
by yourself
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
or
Yeah.
try, some
Yeah,
people.
I would find that. So I think sometimes, like with literacy, I think it's kind of like it's kind of like really basic, but really some more of the more sophisticated, investment tools are actually complex. They're not, they're not simple. They're not simple. You know what I'm saying? They're not very simple. The other thing that just now when you were just talking about the 401k matches, now are you finding right now a lot of individuals that are reaching that retirement age and everything that's going on economically, how are you grounding them at this particular time with all of the information and all of the flux, and for some people actual loss, how are you kind of guiding them through that process?
Yeah, so that is my main priority, is to make sure that no one is going to invest through emotion, right?
Hmm.
Emotional investing could lead to a lot of heartache. If you're going to watch the ups and downs of the market and believe that, today's losses are your losses forever,
Hmm.
then you're going to have a hard time, preparing for your retirement. So you have to understand it's a journey. All right. And we're preparing for long term investments. The stock market has always gone up since 1933 till now.
Hmm.
And that we foresee it to continue to be a growth engine for, many Americans and
Hmm.
many participating. So to walk them off emotionally is my job. And no, we're not going to sell today. We're going to ride out this little tariff war
Hmm.
as much as possible. We're going to put some defensive positions on. We'll probably go a little bit in cash. We'll just prepare ourselves in the portfolio in a way to withstand some downside recapture.
Hmm.
So that's basically what we talk to them about.
Hmm.
In basic terms, without giving any recommendations. Uh, this is just the education piece.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
understand. Understand. So, as we move into more of the mother space, we'll kind of break the moms down. So let's start with like a starter mom. Like she's just starting out in her motherhood journey. She may still be kind of like in her first income level. What's some recommendations that you would give to that mom?
Well, yeah. So I wouldn't give any recommendations. I'm going to educate at this
Education.
point, right?
Okay.
So, first and foremost, you want to keep it at least 3 months or 6 months of your cash reserve. You want to make sure that it's outpacing inflation.
Okay.
So whatever that may be, if your bills are $3,000 or $4,000 a month, make sure you have 3 to 4 months, 3 to 6 months of that in your cash reserve. And then look at your protection side, right? Make sure that you are protecting your assets and
Hmm.
yourself, your
Hmm.
vehicles, your homes, your income, right?
Hmm.
Have income disability
Hmm.
as well, right? Because your largest asset, if you look at it, right, you have a home, you have homeowners insurance. If
Hmm.
you have car, you have car insurance.
Hmm.
But many people don't have insurance on themselves, which is the income producing vehicle,
Hmm.
right? So you want to protect that in case of injury, sickness, of that magnitude.
Hmm.
Then you want to have a effective tax plan to
Yeah.
reduce taxes and reduce your liability year over year over year.
Got it.
And then the last thing is just have a sound investment strategy where, you're at your risk and reward level, right? You look at your tax bracket, you look at your age,
Mhm.
and the time frame that you're looking at, and have someone create a portfolio to withstand that time.
Got it.
I would say that would be the core four, right? It's
Yeah.
the core four right there. And once you have that stable foundation, you can start expounding into other areas of finances to create
That
generational
that
wealth.
that that was, you called that a foundation. That almost sounded maybe that sounded like a 5-year plan. That sounded like like a 5-year plan. I'm thinking about a new mom, and then she's having the expenses of uh babysitter, or if she doesn't have babysitter, then maybe it's a nanny, and then also the goal of putting aside 3 to 6 months of her income just in case there's emergency,
Correct.
and then having some of these other tools to either support her in the event of death, or in the event of a disability,
Correct.
and then putting some college planning in there as well. So it can get very complex in that particular space.
Right. So one of the things that, I educate young moms is never forego your retirement plans for the education plan, right?
Okay.
If you have to choose, you would do your retirement planning and forego the education planning, because our kids are bright. We have bright futures. We have a lot of different opportunities. We have scholarships,
Gotcha.
and we want to push them to be that great so that college will be not that much of an expense.
Yeah.
In the event, though, if you do have the extra cash flow, then I would say not foregoing your retirement. You
Mhm.
would kind of do them both,
Yeah.
right? From an
I
educational
yeah,
side.
I really like that you said that, because oftentimes I am working with moms in the space of them prioritizing the space where they're doing a college savings, but they're neglecting their own retirement planning altogether. When at the end of this, we're not sure what's going to happen with the Department of Education as it relates to financial aid. So we don't really know in that particular space if
Right.
you want to have a child. But for sure, sometimes I am having conversations now with children that have to care for their parents because their parents neglected caring for their retirement. So sometimes when you're trying to think about, let me help this child get to college, there's also this space where, okay, I'm also, while this child is aging, I'm also getting into a space where I'm not working as much as. So there's also that. I'm really glad that you said that. It's
Yeah,
very helpful.
let's call it the sandwich generation, right?
Yes.
Where you're making a living for yourself. You have your kids that you're taking care of, and now you have to take care of your parents, and you're
Mhm.
kind of in the middle. So we call
Yeah.
that the
Yeah.
sandwich generation. And
Mhm.
that's not a good retirement plan.
Yeah, it's largely not. And then I am also in the space where I do get to meet some parents where they did prioritize the retirement space over the college space. And then what I'm finding is that at least the child doesn't now have to take care of the parent financially.
Correct.
I do see that space,
Right.
and that's a space that I'm now seeing, more and more and more, that some parents did prioritize that retirement space. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a
I'm
that's a
seeing
tool.
more and more women, families, husband, wives are coming to me saying that they need long-term care
Okay.
for their parents
Mhm.
because they didn't take care of those things, right? If
Mhm.
you're too sick or too injured to take care of your daily living skills,
Mhm.
that can wipe out your retirement. It can,
Yeah.
take away everything that you ever worked for. So I
Yeah.
see more and more are coming to the office and said, "Hey, let me pay for this long-term care policy for my mom or my aunt or whatever it may be."
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah,
So that those, I think more so that may be something when we think about some of the social space that we live in, where I find these particular generations to be more hyper independent. I'm not really seeing a lot of the spaces where where there were where there's a grandmother figure or a grandfather figure, like that kind of, like, parenting model, grandparenting model, all of those kind of things are really shifting because there's so much hyper independence where people still want to live their life. They have this me time kind of space.
sure.
So there is definitely have to be an insurgence of long-term care, because It has to be. When we
Right,
look at
right.
the social space, it has to be, especially if you're one of those grandmothers or grandparents. It's like, I got to do me now. It's my me time.
Right.
Yeah, start looking into that long-term
No,
care because,
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely. That could just, and I've seen it, right? So it will go through whatever you've saved, if anything. But then your kids feel responsible for you, right? Like
yeah,
I know I feel responsible for my older parents at this particular time. If
hmm,
they need anything,
yeah,
I want to be able to take care of it, right?
yeah,
Thank God they did their retirement planning, so
yeah,
I can flourish myself, right?
yeah.
But all too often it's not the case. So.
Yeah, I am now, over time, I am now seeing to have that particular conversation where the priority was the college planning over the retirement planning, or just no planning either for
Yeah,
college or for retirement at
right.
all. And everybody is just kind of figuring it out. So having some level of a plan. So we'll get into, so that would be kind of like the starter mom plan. That felt like the graduated mom plan. So I don't even know what you're going to say for the mom that's kind of the children are now leaving. She would be the empty nester. What does her financial plan look like?
Well, her financial plan right now is that she's going to be able to save more money into the plan, right? She's going to be hyper focused in the areas that she's investing to create some generational wealth, right?
Hmm.
So she's not only looking into the stock market to build, she's looking into real estate, she's looking into small business, she's
Hmm.
looking into entrepreneurship, she's looking into writing books and
Hmm.
things of that nature. So just having a well diversified portfolio and going into different areas that have the opportunity to bring generational wealth, right? So being an empty nester at that time means, or is supposed to mean, more income for yourself, right? As you
Okay.
progress through that wage earning
Nice.
potential, and it starts to flourish up.
Yeah.
The opportunities are endless, because
Yeah.
you can start hyper focusing on the areas that you may have neglected, simply
Mm.
because the kids are home and you want to take care of some of their things. So you would kind of uh, you know, forego your personal for your children, which
Yeah.
most people do.
Yeah.
And now it's not the time to do that. It's time to go full speed ahead
Mm.
and implement all that you possibly can.
Yeah, I really liked how you did that, because in that starter mom phase, your children are really your focus, in terms of your resources, whether they're intellectual or they're financial. And then, you're getting to that space where now your children are, progressing,
Correct.
and now you have the opportunity to now focus. So sometimes I know even myself, I will feel like I'll try to force myself to be in all of those phases, as opposed to allowing myself to respect my current phase. I remember that when my boys, because my boys are 19 months apart.
Right.
So I would so much so really be punishing myself, be guilting myself, because I wasn't honoring the space that I was in, whether it was financially,
Right.
whether if it was educationally, whether it was professionally, it just not really respecting that these are babies. So largely you're a baby, to the,
Yeah, you
yeah,
have to take, yeah,
that's your space.
that's your
Yeah,
responsibility.
that's your space.
Yeah.
So you just gave like that second space that, hey, as the children are growing, so are you. And then you have the opportunity to redirect resources, both educationally, professionally, and financially.
Correct.
Okay. I
Correct.
like that a
Correct.
lot. Thank
Yeah.
you. That was very helpful. And so what would you kind of put this that we call her the finishing mom? What does her plan kind of look like? What is that? What are her
So
focuses?
before we get to the finishing mom, right?
Hmm.
We still have to, after we have the foundation put in place, right?
Hmm.
Now we have to make sure that the wills are in place, the documentation, right?
Where's that coming in?
That's coming in right
Is that
after.
starter mom, or
No,
that's
this is uh starter mom,
empty nesting mom?
5 years in, uh maybe 10 years in,
Okay.
right? Yeah, she's in her 40s,
Okay.
45-ish,
Okay. Gotcha.
right? Now it starts to, let's talk about life insurance. Let's talk about estate planning.
Okay.
Let's talk about these things that are very important to you, because you don't want to cross the finish line without, right?
I would hope, though, let's go back a little bit. Let's go back to starter mom. I would hope that the younger starter mom would at some point at the least have some level of life insurance, even if it's not her highest performing possibility, right? I'd
Sure.
like to, if all she could afford is the minimum at at that point, because if she has to bury someone or if someone has to bury her, then that immediately creates an income deficit. So hopefully at that space, but and if she waits until she's like 40 or 45, it becomes more
It's more
expensive too.
expensive, right? Yeah.
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 Yeah. So we're creating this as we move along. But I like it so far. I
Right,
like
right,
it so
right.
far.
So what happens is, they would be a proponent of early on. I
Mhm.
was I would educate them to say maybe we should get a term policy at this particular time,
Okay.
and maybe in 4 or 5 years convert it into a cash value life insurance policy where
Okay. So break that down because I think we're moving into that financial literacy space. So
sure,
what would be the difference between term and
sure,
then permanent so
sure,
that
sure, sure.
individuals understand that?
Sure, sure. So term insurance is exactly that, right? So it's you're going to buy insurance for a specific period of time,
Mhm.
10 years, 15 years, 25 years, or whatever it may be.
Mhm.
You pay your premiums. There is no cash value grown. So it's basically like car insurance or homeowners insurance.
Mhm.
It's only there when you need it. So
Okay.
if there's a death within those 20 years, then the insurance company will pay out.
Mhm.
Interesting statistic though. The most interesting statistic is only 2% of term policies ever pay out. Right. So it's
Less than 2% of term policies actually pay
actually
out.
pay out, right? So it's one of the insurance company's cash cows. When you think about it, right? So that's why we want to make sure that as we progress in with the wages, we can convert into what I call a cash value life insurance policy. And then once we convert into that cash value life insurance policy, where you're building equity into a life insurance policy,
Mhm.
we look at two different scenarios, right? We could look at the human life value approach, or we
Mhm.
could look at the needs basis approach to make sure that you're adequately
Mhm.
insured,
Mhm.
um, you know, throughout. Two different approaches and two different amounts, right? And that's all based on cash flow and priority.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm following you. I'm following you. So are you ready to move over to the kind of finishing mom? Like what is her
Finishing
personal
mom. Oh,
finances? Yeah, what does her personal finances look like?
so finishing mom is, she's uh, she's put in her dues, she saved, and now she's getting ready to go on the cruises and take the vacations and spoil the kids.
Mhm.
And that is all done through a distribution strategy, right? So we have done all the accumulation at this point, right? We've accumulated all the money, we've gone through the ups and downs of the market, and we have a pool of money.
Mhm.
And now we go to the distribution phase where, we kind of help them understand that this is a fixed income. This is what you have to live off of. This is what I'm able to generate you on a monthly basis along with your social security.
Mhm.
And this is what you have to live on. And from that point on, if they've done a good job, they should have enough money to do their vacations, hang out with their girlfriends, play golf, spoil the grandkids, pay all their bills, and have a really good life, really good retirement.
I
Right?
like it. But what if they didn't?
What if they didn't, right? The what if scenario. Oh my God.
What if they didn't? What if they didn't do all of that? What if they didn't?
Right. So two things could happen. They started really late
Mhm.
and couldn't get close enough to that income goal.
Mhm.
Or when they got to the distribution phase, they stopped listening. Right. So I've gotten those cases as well. They've gotten all the way, they've accumulated, X amount of dollars, and they get to that finishing line and they have these light bulbs that all of a sudden come out of their head that we never talked about. Right. I want to give X amount of dollars to a church, or I want to, you know, buy a boat, you know, just things that come out, and it is their money. It's not in the plan. And I have to tell them, well, this is how it's going to affect you. It's going to affect your income on a regular basis,
Mhm.
moving forward.
Mhm.
You'll have what you want, but it's going to affect you in the long run. And
Mhm.
they don't seem to understand that the more you take out of the account, the less money that you're going to receive. Despite the fact that I'm getting a good rate of return, I can never keep up with someone overspending in the account.
Ah,
Right.
so would you say that you're more likely to see the finishing mom in that phase of impulsiveness than some of the other phases? Because at that point, you're now out of the accumulation phase. You may still be accumulating, but not as much in your younger years. Do you find that they are more likely to financially exploit themselves? Are you finding that a little bit more?
That's a phenomenon. That's financial psychology there,
Okay.
right? That's
Okay.
that's a phenomenon that we're still trying to grasp
Okay.
our hands around. Simply because you spent 30 years doing all the hard work,
Yeah.
right? And then in your next phase of life, you're irresponsible, right? So, and it's not really being irresponsible from their point of view because
Mhm.
they feel like maybe they're helping someone out or they're
Yeah.
fulfilling a dream,
I've seen
whatever it may
that.
be.
I've seen the helping someone out. Mhm.
Or fulfilling a dream or a want or whatever it may be. But
Mm,
you know, when, if you're planning something out, you have to stick to the script,
yeah.
right? Because there's no second chances. You're not going to go back and work 30 years any longer, right? So you
Right.
have to kind of stick to the script.
Yeah.
It's important that, and that's why I'm here, right? To
Mhm.
kind of hold you to the fire,
Yeah.
to make sure that you said you're hiring me to make sure that this doesn't happen, right? So
Right.
sometimes, we have hard conversations.
Right.
It's not always everything's great today, right?
Yeah.
I have hard conversations with my clients and,
Mhm.
tell them that no, it's not possible. Okay. It's not really possible. That's what you hired me for. I mean, if that's going to be the case, if you don't want to hear this advice, then I'm not the guy for you.
I got you. So, on that note, we're going to thank you for tuning in to this episode of Money Therapy. We do hope that you were able to take in something, because anything that you take care of is going to become more beautiful, and that includes your money. Thank you.